All right, so welcome everybody to Computer Science 1, that's CSCE 155E. Welcome to everybody in the room and welcome to everybody that is streaming right now. If you have any questions, if you're in person, of course, feel free to raise your hand. Otherwise, if you're online or if you are in person and just don't want to raise your hand for whatever reason, we are on Piazza with a live Q&A. My name is Dr. Chris Burke. I will be your instructor for the rest of the semester here. I'm not the only one though. Let me just go ahead and jump ahead here for a second. We've got about 15 undergraduate learning assistants who are going to help you in your labs, your hacks, office hours, and in their own office hours as well down in Avery 15. I just wanted to show you their pictures so that you can get to know them all right now, right? First of all, are you in the right class? Hopefully you are. Again, this is CSCE 155E, that's Computer Science 1. It's for computer science majors, computer engineering majors, electrical engineering majors according to their EE department, and just a mix of other majors that just want some coding experience. So if you're one of those majors, you're definitely in the right place. If you're not one of those majors or you're thinking about other opportunities or other courses that might be suitable if you're just getting started, CSCE 155T uses the Python programming language and it is a humanities focus. So if you are interested in that kind of stuff, then go ahead and check out that course. If you are an engineering major other than EE, electrical engineering, you may want to be taking 155N. Talk to your advisor. That's MATLAB. I'm not sure how pervasive MATLAB is in each of your disciplines, but that's also another Computer Science 1 course that you might want to consider. Otherwise, there is an honors section for this course that meets Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's not full yet, but we're getting there. If you are really, you really think that you're prepared and you really want to take that honors course, go ahead and talk to me offline. We cover 2 languages in parallel. Instead, in this class, we cover C, but in that class, we cover both C and Java. For those with a lot of prior experience, you may consider taking Computer Science 2, immediately going into Computer Science 2. Now, hopefully this is something you've already talked to about with your instructor at new student enrollment or some other opportunity. But you can skip ahead in our program, and as long as you've got some good experience already behind you, maybe a couple of years of programming from high school or something like that, and you would get retroactive credit, kind of like AP credit, upon successful completion of Computer Science 2. So those are the other opportunities. I just wanted to make you aware of those opportunities. I'm not trying to, dissuade you from this class in particular. But I do want to make sure that you're making an informed decision on which class that you're actually taking. As I said, I'm Dr. Chris Burke. I've been doing this course now for many years. We've been doing it in a hybrid mode for at least even before COVID. So we have about 170 people enrolled in the in-person sections here. We have about 50 other people online that are doing the distance ed version of this. It's the same exact course, it's just that they're not going to be in this room. So if you are taking the distance ed course, make sure that you're attending via YouTube or via the Zoom office hours when we have those. So far, any questions so far? No? All right, looks like everything is working on OBS, so we'll go ahead and go on here. Remember that you do have 15 learning assistants that are associated with this course that hold office hours throughout the entire week. So there are plenty of opportunities to get help, both from me and from the learning assistants, as well as online using Piazza. Again, we are using this as a live Q&A as well as a discussion forum. So if you have any questions, go ahead and throw them up there. I'm now looking at it. There's no questions so far. All right. So what is computer science, and consequently, what is an introduction to computer science? I've got a nice quote here from one of my favorite authors, Douglas Adams, the late Douglas Adams. This book series has since been made into a TV series that has nothing to do with the books. But he was a programmer, and he nicely put into words what programming was all about. You can go ahead and read into that computer science. If you really want to understand something, the best way to do it is to try and explain it to somebody else. That forces you to sort it out in your own mind. That's really the essence of programming. By the time that you've sorted out a complicated idea into a bunch of little tiny steps that even a dumb computer can understand and deal with, you've certainly learned something about it yourself. And that's exactly what programming is. It's problem solving. That's what computer science is. It's problem solving. It's taking a complex process, or a complex problem, and breaking it down into such small chunks that you can just immediately tell a computer what to do with those chunks. And then you've automated a solution for yourself. Another theme of this course is another quote by another science fiction author / programmer, Michael Crichton. This is not from one of his books. He's famous for Jurassic Park. He wrote that, Andromeda Strain, and a bunch of other things. And he said that in a magazine article, he said, "In my experience, you assert control over a computer. You show it who's boss by making it do something unique. That means programming it. And if you devote a couple of hours to programming a new machine, you'll feel a lot better about it afterwards." So instead of being, instead of just having this mysterious black box device like a phone or a computer, and I don't know how to make it work, you are going to understand it at a much more fundamental level, where you're actually creating these things. So you become the masters of the machines when you go through something like this. At its core, again, computer science is about problem solving. Computers don't solve problems. As we've all experienced today, they cause more problems when we become so dependent on them that we lose our Wi-Fi and we completely lose everything on the first day. Thankfully, I have Wi-Fi. Hopefully, most of you have it by now. But in any case, let's see. Yeah, all right. Computers only automate solutions. You're still the problem solver. You still have to take that problem. You still have to break it down into those small steps that a dumb computer can understand. Computers only automate solutions. Computers are only good at one thing: doing dumb things very, very fast. Right? That kind of small data entry that we're trying to automate away, so that we humans don't have to do it anymore. We designed machines so that we didn't have to dig trenches all the time. We designed computers so that we don't have to deal with little tiny bits of data all the time. Right? It's a discipline itself that's becoming ancillary to all other disciplines. What I tell people at the job, or at like noob camp and other events, is that I usually go to those annual job fairs. And last several years that I've gone to these job fairs, I've noticed companies that are not technology companies. Like, for example, the last one I was at, there were like 15 different construction management companies. And were they there looking for construction management folks? Mechanical engineers? Nope. They were looking for computer scientists. Because in this day and age, a company that is not a technology company is a company that's on its way out. So every single discipline is going to have some programming, or it's basically already a basic skill that is going to be necessary in pretty much any job going forward, any job that's going to exist past 10 years from now. And this is exemplified in yet another author, Isaac Asimov, who was asked in 1964, so it's well over 50 years now, what 2014 would look like. And he said that we'll have fewer routine jobs that cannot be done better by some machine than by any human being. We're getting there, right? Including things, even mundane things like driving a car or driving a truck. Those jobs will not be there in 20 years. They will be automated, right? And by then, mankind will have become largely a race of machine tenders. Schools will have to be oriented in that direction. High schoolers will have to learn the fundamentals of computer technology, not binary arithmetic, forget that, but will be trained to perfection in the use of computer programming languages. Now, he cited Fortran 50 years ago. Of course, nobody used, a lot of people still use Fortran, but it's very, very niche. So it is still alive, but it's not something that you would want to learn today. It's a legacy system. It's a legacy language. But a programming language like C, that is over 40 years old, is still one of the top 5 programming languages out there. You also have Java, C#, whatever. It doesn't matter what your first programming language is. you will need, by necessity, you'll have to learn several programming languages. Once you learn one very, very well, it's going to be way easier to pick up a second programming language. Like in Computer Science 2, we do Java. Computer Science 3, I encourage Python, et cetera, et cetera. You'll want to pick up JavaScript. You'll want to pick up C#, whatever your interests are. That'll dictate your next preferred language. But in this class, we start out with C. What is this class, specifically to computer science? It's an introduction to the discipline itself. It's not really a programming course. All right? Now, we will use programming as a tool, and that'll seem like it's the primary purpose of this course, and that is a big chunk of it, but programming is a means to an end. Another famous computer scientist, Edgar Dijkstra, said that computer science has no more to do with computers as astronomy does to telescopes. Telescopes are just a tool for astronomy. Computers are just a tool for computer science. It's much, much larger than that. At its core, it's a mathematical discipline. It's about problem solving, computational thinking, algorithms, data structures, data processing, etc. The entire world is a process. You can't, look at any discipline, business. Business has a process, right? It has a hierarchy, organization, and how things work together. That's a process. Let's see, what is it? Supply chain management. That's a process. I know several computer scientists that eventually became supply chain managers because they knew how to program, right? If you know how to program, if you're in another discipline, if you're in another major, by the way, and like say supply chain management guy, and you're up against a supply chain management person for a job, and you have those programming skills, guess what? You just shot above them several levels in preference for hiring. So it's a huge skill. It's a fundamental, important, value-added skill. The essential topics for this course are going to be mastery in a fundamental programming language, C, problem-solving methodology, specifications, design, etc. Software development principles. In your first week here, you're going to be introduced to your programming environment, how to compile something, but also one of the fundamental tools, or a tool that has become fundamental, Git. You will be pushing stuff out to a Git repo on GitHub. You'll be collaborating with somebody else in the class. That's your first hack. I do walk you through Lab 1 and Hack 1 with those introductory videos that I pointed you to. So if you've already done them, great, you're ahead. If not, you're not behind. It's just that other people chose to go ahead. You can choose to do those in this week's lab and or hack session. Right? It's about data, abstraction, modeling, processing. It's about algorithms and data structures and algorithms. At the end, we'll get some exposure to graphical user interfaces and databases and database access. A lot of people are kind of disappointed that they won't be building shiny buttons that you can click and text boxes and stuff like that. To the average consumer, that's what computer science looks like, because that's what it looks like on their phone. That's what it looks like on a website. That's only the tip of the iceberg. It's a very, very small part of what we do. So graphical user interfaces, we'll get some introduction to that later on. The principles of it, not necessarily getting into it, big time. This course is organized into modules. Roughly you have one module per week. That's already available in Canvas, and you can see the dates on each one of these modules. Module 1, for example, we start on the basics. That'll bleed into the second week a little bit, or the third week, I guess. But then we'll go on to conditionals. Each one of these modules has, it's organized into 4 squares. This blue square right here is the actual material. So the lectures, I will live stream them. Every lecture will be live streamed like we're doing right now. You can watch them live. You can watch them later, because the recordings will be available immediately after we're done on YouTube. When I get home, I will make sure, I will update it, edit it a little bit, and I will make sure that the link is available here. But there's also a playlist that you can link to. Otherwise, I've got pre-prepared videos. It's basically the same topics, but with a different spin, with a different, these are highly polished videos that are highly edited and cut down to only the bare essentials. Different examples are used in those videos. Go ahead and watch them before lecture, after lecture, both, whatever you want. But for the first week, they serve as a walkthrough to get you started and get you on the ground running with your first lab and your first hack. Otherwise, there's recommended reading. I do have a free textbook called Computer Science 1 for this. That's not the textbook that is required for this course. We'll talk about that in a second here. But if you want some supplemental reading, I recommend chapters out of that book. All right? The green area here are all your graded activities. This is where your actual grade and assessment will come in. Every week you have a reading out of Zybooks. Zybooks, hopefully you got that already at the bookstore. It's not an actual physical book. When you go over there, I think you're given like a page with an access code. Yes? Okay. I don't know about you online folks. I don't know how they deliver those to the online folks, but hopefully we'll get that figured out. In any case, you access those readings through Canvas. When you go there, of course, I've already been logged in and everything, but you'll be asked for that access code. And it's an online interactive textbook. There's a bunch of text that you read. Sometimes there are some multiple choice answers, short answer questions, whatever, just to verify that you actually read. You don't have to do it all in one shot. You can save your work and come back and up to the due date. All right. For example, here, you like what's the output of this code right here? You input it. You can answer as many times as you want until you get it right. Right? It is basically based on completion. Right? That's the reading. You'll have one due every Monday by 5 o'clock because I want you to do the reading before you come to lecture that week. Right? Your first two readings, Module 1 and Module 2, are both due by Monday. Of course, I couldn't make it due 16 minutes ago. That would be terrible. So instead, I'm going to give you 2 weeks, an extra week on that first reading assignment. You'll have reading 1 and reading 2, both due 5 o'clock a week from today. The second part is your lab. Every Tuesday, you will have your lab session. For those in the in-person, make sure that you are going to the one that you enrolled in. 2 of the labs are completely full. And there are 38 seats in there, no social distancing as it is. So make sure that you're going to the one that you've enrolled in. Right? Attendance is always optional, as it's outlined in the syllabus. You could do the lab at home the night before if you want, whatever. But they're designed to be done within that lab period. It should only take you about an hour and 15 minutes to do it if you've done the prep work leading up to that point. If you do choose to go to lab in person, we'll team you up randomly with somebody so that you can work together on it, right? It's kind of required collaboration. If you want to work alone and do it beforehand, that's completely up to you, right? And you can basically all the code and your worksheet, you submit it electronically. It's due by midnight. So if you don't get it done within that hour and 15-minute period, that's fine. You have until midnight to get the rest of it done, right, and submit it. Once you go through Lab 1, you'll get the hang of this, that there's a web hand-in that you turn stuff in. There's a web grader where you hit grade me. It shows you the expected output. It shows you your output. If it matches, you're golden. Okay? There's typically a handout along with some starter code that you might have to clone from GitHub. Again, going through Lab 1, going through Hack 1, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Okay? Then you've got your hack. Your hack is worth 25 points each week. It is not designed to be done in that Thursday period. Instead, that Thursday period is that Thursday meeting period where either in person or online any old time is designed to get you started. You can team up and collaborate with anybody that you want in the class. You can make pairs. You can join a group of 3. Joining a group of 4 and more is not advisable because that distributes the work too much and it makes it too easy for one person to mooch off the rest of them, one person to do all the work, and then you're not learning anything. And when it comes to the final and the midterm and the project, you'll be screwed. Right? So make sure that it is all equitable within those groups. We're not going to assign groups. You are not required to work with anybody. If you want to work alone, that's perfectly fine as well. Right? Again, if any of you have any questions, please post to Piazza or go ahead and raise your hand on any of this stuff. Right? Any questions so far? All right. That's what your weeks... Yeah, go ahead.
On the calendar, you have lectures set for this. Should we go back and read
I do. I didn't set those. From last week, you mean? Or
16.
Yeah.
yeah, that ain't me. They probably imported the same schedule from last. Maybe it was me when I copied the course over, and we began school a week ahead of time last year. Ignore those. This is the first full lecture. I did send out a welcome video message that you're welcome to watch. It's not necessary, but there were no lectures before this. This is the first one. Good question. I'll fix that. Thank you. Then, of course, you've got some optional stuff. If you just want to have a deeper dive, then there's some optional reading, there's some optional viewing, and some additional resources if you want to check those out. Right? I don't have such extensive stuff later on, but you'll see that, like here, Module 2, it has 6 videos that you can watch before coming or whatever. But otherwise, you have the same reading, lab, and hack every week. Right? So get into that groove and stay into that groove, and you'll do well. Okay? All right, so again, Zybooks is an online interactive textbook. I was told that it was $58 last year. Is that still the case? All right. So by official book standards, college text standards, that's pretty cheap. I wish that it was cheaper, unfortunately. But also, there's no way to pirate it, and so that's where the future is going. It's going to be online, interactive textbooks. Hopefully, within a couple of years, we'll have some free alternatives from Zybooks via openstacks.org. OpenStacks, open, and then Stacks is stax.com or .org or something like that. They have nice free open source textbooks for, like, say, Calc 1, Calc 2, Physics 1, etc. So you might have some required textbooks in your other classes. I'm sure that there are ways of getting around paying for those that I can't go into any further, but I'm sure that you know how to. But there's also some free alternatives out there on OpenStacks. All right? The first and second readings are due, again, 1 week from today. I've seen that maybe about 20% have already started on them. I last checked it on Friday, though. So it's definitely working. Again, it's all automated. So when you go in, you do your work, you save it or whatever, and it automatically updates the grade book. If you only do half of it, you only get half the points. You can go back up until the due date, though, and finish it out, and then that'll automatically be updated in the grade book. There may or may not be, I don't know what it looks like from a student perspective, but there might be like a button that says submit to Canvas or something like that you might have to actually hit. All right? Go ahead and check that out and let us know if you have any trouble with it. Otherwise, after that, each reading is due on Mondays consistently at 5 p.m. Right? Except for, this fall break that has been restored. I think that we push it back to the Wednesday, but don't quote me on that. It's designed for you to read the relevant sections before you come to class so that you have at least a minimum amount of knowledge to know what the hell I'm talking about when I come up here. All right. There are 13 total, and it's 20% of your grade, basically. So 20% of your grade is based on just reading, completing questions that you can submit over and over and over again as much times as you want until you get to the due date. Right? Feel free to work with other people if you really want to. You can sit side by side, but you will need, of course, to submit your own answers for the actual process to work. There's also, again, a free supplemental textbook, mine, available at that PDF. There's also a bunch of supplemental articles with all those readings. Again, there are 60 pre-prepared, pre-edited videos, 9.5 hours of material total. There's about 5 per module. They're designed for you to watch them before class, but you can watch them afterwards if you want to. Again, we meet every Monday and Wednesday. It's kind of weird, I know. A Monday, Wednesday lecture without a Friday lecture. I inherited that for better or worse, and it stayed that way forever because this is the only room that we can fit this many people in. So it'll be like this in perpetuity until they build us a new building and we've got a bigger room. I won't be doing it today, but lectures are coded. I don't have I do have some slides, but who wants slides? What I do is I type as we go along, in a language called Markdown. And it is rendered over here up on the screen in a nice GitHub style formatting. You'll see it on Wednesday. And I push those notes to the GitHub repo, and I'll share that link to you once we actually have some notes to work with. So all of my notes will be available online as we write them, but you should still take notes on your own because they're not necessarily complete. And studies have shown that the mere fact that you write something down or you type something right after you've heard it means that you learn it way better. Right? So please take your own notes in addition to my notes. My notes might suck and I have a typo too or whatever. Right? Limit your distractions. If you've got we don't have reliable Wi-Fi right now, and I'm not sure how the 4G is being blocked by all the probably asbestos up there. But limit those distractions, right? Don't make 100% of your time on social media when you're in here. Make use of lecture, right? I'm not going to police you or anything. I'm not going to go down and say, put that cell phone away. Just shut your ringer off, please, so you don't distract others. But definitely don't do something inappropriate or something and then the people behind you are distracted by whatever's on your screen, right? Even the mere presence of smartphones makes you dumber and the people around you dumber because, again, they start to drift and they start seeing your posts on Facebook or whatever and they start reading over your shoulder, right? Don't let them read over your shoulder by not doing it. We've got our first question here. Where do you check what lab section you are? That's entirely up to you. You signed up for the labs. MyRed is the place to go. MyRed will tell you which section number you're in and consequently where that. All of them are in Avery 20, but what time you actually meet. All right. Labs again. You have 14 of them. They're each worth 15 points, and that's another 20% of your grade. So we're already up to 40% of your grade that can be very easily completed with the collaboration of other folks, right? Labs, in fact, labs and hacks, you submit them electronically. You go to the web grader, you check your grade. Does my output match the expected output? If yes, we're good to go. If not, go back and fix it. Resubmit it as many times as you want until it's perfect. So you can pretty much get the vast majority of points in this course by simply just trying and reiterating on your solutions. When you go to lab, we have what's called a driver navigator kind of situation where the idea is that one person is at the keyboard doing the work, the typing work, while the driver is, while the navigator has the handout open but it's an equal partnership between the two. Just like a navigator in a car has to say, all right, take the next left, take the next right. There might be a better way of doing this. What do you think, right? Okay, but the other person is actually steering, is actually typing. That kind of dynamic is what we encourage in the lab. So 2 people, again, if you want to work alone before the lab, that's fine too. But if you come to lab, we're going to team you up so that you can have that opportunity to bounce ideas off of each other, so that you're not working alone completely, so that you're developing those soft skills, those team working skills, those interpersonal skills. When you do go to the lab, especially, again, it's a small enclosed space in the basement of Avery. We highly encourage you to wear masks, whether or not you are vaccinated or not. Simply because it is a small space, you will be interacting with somebody very closely for an extended period of time. It's graded based on completion, and it is due at midnight on Tuesdays. So complete the code, complete the worksheet, you're good to go. Each week there's also a weekly hack again, and those are worth 25 points each for 32.5% of your grade total. Right? So hacks are much more substantial. They're going to require more substantial work. That's why we give you until the next Monday at midnight to complete them. You're not going to get it done in that Thursday when you start. You use your hack time to get started, to resolve any questions with the learning assistants that are there to help you. But otherwise, you have until that next Monday at midnight to submit everything. And again, you can resubmit as many times as you want until it works perfectly. It's semi-auto graded using the web grader, which you'll see in your first lab and your first hack. There is a rubric in Canvas. We don't just grade on correctness. We also grade on style, documentation, and design. Right? So, but the bulk of the points, like 16 out of the 25 points, those are based on correctness. Right? The code actually runs. The code actually runs correctly. At the end of the semester, there is a project which is basically worth almost 2 or 3 hacks. It's 75% of your, or 75 points for 7.5% of your grade. And it's basically the culmination of everything that you pick up in this course by the end. No collaboration is allowed on this, and so that's why it's important to make sure that you're not just, relying on somebody else throughout the entire semester. When you do team up with somebody else, make sure that you're teaming up with somebody with comparable skills, right? If this is your first coding introduction to coding ever in your entire life, don't team up with somebody who has 5 years of coding experience, right? Likewise, if you have 5 years of coding experience, don't team up with somebody that's a complete noob, right? Because then it's no longer a peer kind of dynamic where you are contributing equally. That's a mentor-mentee kind of dynamic. And that's not what we want you to do, right? Certainly, if you've got 5 years of coding experience, be that mentor, but don't be that mentor on the actual assignments, right? And certainly not on the project, because no collaboration is allowed on that at all. There are 2 exams tentatively, each worth about 10% of your grade, 1 midterm, 1 final. The makeup is yet to be determined. Traditionally, prior to COVID, we would have it right here. Open book, open note, required computer, because you will be doing programming exercises. Last year, because of COVID, what we did was we gave you a 24-hour window to complete it. All right? So yet to be determined what the best course of action on that is. But in any case, the laptop will be required, because you do have to code. All right? If you do not have a laptop, you can check one out just by going out over here to Husker Tech. You can check it out for 24 hours, I think. Right? Does that answer the questions? All right, go ahead.
Question was just like, how long do you think I could wait to get a laptop?
Oh, I have no idea. Like if you're planning on buying one, I'd just do it right now. But if you're planning on checking one out, I would go over there right after class and see what the dynamics of that are. Yeah. I think, is it possible to plug them in? I think that there are strips along every seat, isn't there? Like right under you, there should be a power strip. Right. Whether or not it's live, I don't know, but you could stick a fork in it and find out. Is there another question? No? Okay, don't stick a fork in it. All right, collaboration is not about mooching. Like I said, if you've got 5 years of experience, don't team up with somebody that's a complete noob. Don't undermine somebody else's learning experience by doing all the work for them, right? And it's not doing everything for yourself. Don't undermine the learning experience of another person or of yourself by letting somebody else do all the work. Make sure that you are collaborating correctly, that everything is a 50, if it's 2 people, it's a 50-50 collaboration. There's 50% of the ideas are coming from one direction, 50% of the ideas are coming from the other direction. There's constant communication. There is an equitable relationship there. Right? Bouncing ideas, it's great because you can bounce ideas off of each other. Getting another pair of eyes on a piece of code, you'll sit there and you'll stare at a piece of code for hours upon hours and say, I do not see what the hell is wrong with this piece of code. Somebody else comes in with fresh eyes and immediately sees, oh, you forgot a semicolon, right? And your problem is solved. Don't wait 3 hours. Get that other person in there as soon as possible, right? And make sure that it's an equal effort going back and forth, right? Don't rack your brain against the desk and get frustrated. Ask, right? Or ask a learning assistant for help. Yeah.
So, with labs collaboration, we can collab, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then with the hacks, we can also as well.
Yep.
But is there a time other than like exams?
The exams and the project are the only things that you cannot collaborate on, right? So in other words, what is it? Almost 75% of your grade is you have the opportunity to collaborate if you choose. Right? All right. Branch out. You might not have made friends yet, but don't just collaborate with your friends if you have made friends yet already, right? Because then that friend dynamic is not the professional dynamic that you need when you're collaborating on code. It's way easier to let your friend mooch off of you because they're your friend. You don't want to disappoint them, right? So just make sure that you're doing it correctly. Right? Again, I open up collaboration, but don't abuse it. And I'm saying don't abuse it because I'll get pissed off or anything. I don't care, right? It's your grade. Don't undermine your own learning experience, right? We have a syllabus that I'll get to in a second, but the highlights here are that no late work is accepted, and you have to abide by the academic integrity. On those few things that you cannot collaborate, we use a software system called MOS, which stands for Measure of Software Similarity. I'll let you know that we use it throughout the semester too, just to see who collaborated with whom, to verify. When you do collaborate with somebody, in the authorship, make sure that you're putting all the names there, right? Just so that we know who worked with whom, so that when we run it through MOS, oh, okay, they work together, that makes sense. But then when we go to run MOS and we see they worked together throughout the entire semester, and then suddenly they work together also on their exam, red flag, right? So you will be caught. MOS is an extremely sophisticated software system that says your code is 93% matching of their code, and it bubbles all the way up to the top. Do not try things that will not work. For example, changing variable names, or changing the white space. Or, if you are going to cheat, at least change the name, right? Plenty of people have cheated that have not even changed the name, and we found them that way without even running this MOS system. But don't do it, right? It's just not worth it. Besides, 75% of your grade is collaboration already, right? Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Open book, open note, open computer. In fact, if you write a piece of code in Hack 5, right, that you find useful in Hack 8, absolutely. I designed the hacks to do that, right? If you're going to want to use that same piece of code that you might have collaborated with on the exam because it's useful, go ahead and do that. Just attribute it, and we know, oh, yeah, that's why I designed the test that way, so that you could reuse that code from Hack 5 if you wrote it well, right? That's what coding is all about. It's reuse. Right? So here's a preview. What is the first question you ask yourself when you're faced with a problem that you have to solve? Yeah, is it solved already, right? We like programming because we are lazy, right? We don't like doing things. If we can write a program that will do the things for us, if we can build a machine that will do the things for us, we do. That's called progress. Right? Question? Oh, okay, all right. All right, so more resources here, Canvas, Piazza. We do have a question here. Will this PowerPoint be shared? I can do it later. Although this is Markdown, I'll have to save it as a PDF to share it with you because you probably don't have the Markdown rendering software to do this. Of course, the lecture is live streamed. You can refer back to, I'll put this up there, yeah. How do we buy iBooks? Go to the bookstore and pay them with money. Yep, somebody put in, thank you, somebody put in the link for it, right? How do we, wow, awesome, guys. You're already answering the questions for me. Excellent. For people in the online section, what is the most reliable way to find people to collaborate when you want it required? I'm going to say Piazza. You can go ahead and post there. Last year, some students took it upon themselves to establish a Discord, which I'm completely fine with. If somebody wants to set up a Discord server, the first one to do it probably and post it to Piazza is probably going to be the most popular one because everybody will join that. But it's fine as long as you don't, share code on that Discord or whatever. If you want to, you can join the SAB Discord. That's the Student Advisory Board Discord, and we can make a sub-channel for this course if you want to. Right? Lots of options there. Otherwise, you could show up into the Zoom office hours and wait around until some other student shows up, and then we can pair you and put you into a breakout room if you like. Right? And it's okay for online folks to collaborate with in-person folks, vice versa. Right? Okay. Again, you've got more than a dozen learning assistants. How many do we have? I think we have 20 learning assistants, and they hold at least 2 or 3 office hours each week. That means that there's about 60 to 70, 80 hours a week that were available on Zoom and over in Avery 15. Right? And of course, you've got the Student Resource Center. Right? We'll take a look at the syllabus here in a second in more detail, but don't assume anything about yourself. Again, if you're that person that has 5 years of coding experience, great. Right? You will learn something new. Right? There are very few people. I know of no high schools in the Nebraska or the regional area that teach C as a first programming language. Does anybody want to say that their high school taught C? Yeah, so you're going to learn something, right? Even if you have some Java experience, even if you have some Python experience, C is a whole different bear to deal with. We start with zero knowledge. That's why Hack 1 and Lab 1 are just there to introduce you to the environment, to get you started. That's why I give you a complete walkthrough, right? Free points. All you have to do is watch the video, follow along, right? Coding is a skill that needs practice. It's like playing the violin, right? I don't play any instruments, but I'm sure that it's like this, that nobody's going to be good at the first time, right? My son took up violin for a year, and no, he was not good at the first time he picked it up, right? It took an entire year, and even then, he was, just grade school good, right? So it's like learning any skill, learning an instrument, learning mechanics, or learning to build a computer or something like that, right? Each iteration that you do something, you get better and better at it. But it's that iteration that you have to do, right? You can't just learn it from a textbook. It's not just like you can read Xi books and then you'll be good at it. It's not that you can just do the labs and you'll be good at it. That's why you need that practice after practice after practice. Xi books, the lab gets you. Xi books gives you an introduction. The lab gives you some hands-on experience, and then the hack allows you to explore further with extra practice. Right? Compare yourself to yourself, not to others. Again, if you're a beginner and that person next to you has 5 years of experience, whatever, don't compare yourself to them. Right? It's not that you're not at the same level. It's that at the end of this course, you will be at that level, right? As long as you do all the work. You may struggle, but everybody can succeed in this course. Right? There are plenty of resources. There are plenty of opportunities to get help. There are plenty of opportunities to collaborate with other people that are in the same exact boat. If you're nervous, that's perfectly fine. I can guarantee you that among 170 people in here, I don't know how many showed up, but 170 people in here, there is somebody exactly like you on your level and your nervousness level, right? Team up, right? Give each other confidence. So, we'll come back to this. Let's see. First of all, if you go to the GitHub repo, I link to these throughout Canvas, but I just want to bring your attention to a few of the documents that I've put together over the years, especially for you in the online section. Tips, and these are tips for succeeding in this and other online courses, but those tips apply to everybody who is here in person as well. Treat it like a regular course, right? Well, you have to treat it like a regular course for those of you in here. Don't get get and stay organized. I'm glad somebody pointed out that I screwed up the calendar by copying it from last year, because the calendar is an excellent way to get organized. It can be exported as iCal, or it can be exported as an ICS, and put it into your own calendar and your own organizational software, or just rely on Canvas, whatever. Make sure that you are keeping track of all of your things and all of your due dates, and keeping a to-do list, upcoming events, upcoming due dates and stuff like that, and work backwards. If you know that you have a hack due on Monday at midnight, and you think, that's going to take me like 3 days to do, a few hours each day. I want to spread that out over 3 days. Work backwards, and you know when you have to start. You know how many hours you have to put in that day, how many hours you have to put in the next day, etc. Don't just wait to the last minute and say, okay, I've got 6 hours now. I can go ahead and get it all done. Not that they'll take you 6 hours, but make sure that you're planning and you are spreading that stuff out. Don't work in these peaks and these troughs. Work a nice, even flow. Right? Work every day. Organize yourself. Create a separate study space. Yeah, go ahead. Say what? Oh, it does? Where is that?
On the screen.
Huh. Oh yeah, I don't. It's not my projector. I was gonna say it's not that hot. OBS is at only. Oh, wow. OBS is only at 7%. That's amazing. But it's not that hot over here. Right? If we lose that projector, we still have that one. We're good. So create a separate study space. A separate study space, free from distractions. Now, some people thrive in distractions. Some people love to go down to the Student Resource Center where there are 50 other people working and going back and forth on a Friday night and talking about, oh, this is great, whatever. They're talking about that TV show or whatever. Make sure that if you don't work in that environment, make sure that you are establishing a separate space for yourself, okay? Network, stay connected, and stay engaged. I gave you several opportunities to do that, or suggestions on how to do that. Make sure that you're utilizing your resources. Make sure that you're staying healthy, especially in this semester. Hopefully we won't get shut down, right? And that means that you are getting vaccinated. That means that you are wearing your mask when you can't socially distance. That means that you're not cutting out recreation, right? If you want to go over to the rec center, play some basketball, or if you want to come out with me and Bonita, who is also a faculty member in computer science, every Friday at 9 a.m. we do a 5K run with the faculty. So if you want to come out and do a 5K with us, we meet at Shore 9 a.m. the first Friday of every month. All right, that'll be announced in Bits and Bytes. Any runners? Cross country? Former cross country. Does UNL have cross country? I imagine they do, right? Okay, all right. All right, so if you're in cross country, don't come because you'll put us to shame. No, it's all right, still come. All right, expect to be challenged. I've got a handout here for bring your own device. I go through that in video 1.3, by the way. If you don't want to use the CS50 IDE, which I'll show you here in a second, and you just want to bring your own computer and do C programming on your own laptop or whatever, I've got some suggestions on how to do that in this document. Otherwise, oops, there's the academic integrity guidelines. It includes, what we discussed just now. Labs are required collaboration in that we will team you up if you come in person. Hacks are open collaboration. Exams are closed collaboration, and the project is closed collaboration. And what does that mean over here exactly? Read that. It's in lawyer speak, right? What can you do? These things. Any function or any piece of code that you wrote prior to this class, or part of the language that is part of the standard library, any piece of code that was provided to you by the instructor. I give you a starter code for almost pretty much everything that you do in this class, and then you have to finish it out. That starter code, you can use that to your heart's content. Any piece of code that you wrote as part of a lab, hack session, or from another assignment, that's perfectly fine to use. Any piece of code that you wrote outside of class as a hobby, that's perfectly fine to use, right? In fact, 2 people got ensnared in a possible academic integrity violation last year. This professor caught them that they had this exact same code, and they said, well, we don't know each other. We have that code because that's what we wrote in Computer Science 1. And so he came to me and said, is this true? Absolutely. Okay, that's perfectly fine. You can use that in another class, right? I can't speak for other professors or other instructors, but for this class, these are acceptable code use policies. What's unacceptable? Unacceptable is any piece of code that you just directly copied from Stack Overflow or programmer.com or whatever the hell is out there. Providing code to another student that you wrote is also a violation unless you are allowed to collaborate. Making your code publicly accessible prior to final grades posting is discouraged, right? Because then other people can steal your code. Accessing sites for coding such as Chegg, Course Hero, freelancer.com, hireaprogrammer.com, big no-no, right? Don't do that. Chegg puts on airs that it's a legitimate site because they were bought out by a publisher, but in practice, they're not a legitimate site. They are a cheating website, right? Unfortunately, I think they package it with a lot of material like Pearson. They were bought out by Pearson, I think, and Pearson packages it with a lot of their material. But in our experience, in the department's experience, nothing good has come of it. Right? All right, don't be stupid. It's stupid to cheat because you will easily get caught. You are undermining your own learning experience. You are undermining the learning experience of others. Just don't do it. Right? And again, there's no reason to when 75% of your grade is open collaboration. Right? Work with whomever you want, but don't undermine your own learning experience by collaborating with a dozen other people. Right? That's not collaboration. Here is the syllabus. There's some other quotes from previous semesters. We are in dark mode here. How do we switch out to dark mode? Dark mode is fine. All right. I can zoom in a little bit better. There we go. So hopefully you've had math 106, 103 or equivalent. It's not that you're going to need that math, but you do need algebra in this course because, I mean, that's the bare minimum, basically. There is a postrequisite for this course. In order to continue in the program, if you're a computer science or computer engineering major, you do need a C or better for it to count towards your major. All right? So keep that in mind. What is it? The old engineering saying, C's get degrees, but D's don't. All right. Hopefully you do better than C's. All right. There are skills objectives that you should read through. Again, the program, high-level programming language, et cetera, et cetera. The schedule is, of course, in Canvas here. Make sure that you're taking a look at it and planning ahead. The midterm is already scheduled. Right? There's a question mark there, but that's where it will be. So that's October, that's a Wednesday, so October 20th. Right? That's your midterm. Your final exam is already scheduled, of course, as well. There we go. There it is. Final exam for this is on Tuesday, thankfully early in the week, the 14th, 3:30 to 5:30. Right? What else? If you have accommodations like extended test time, or you need closed captioning or something like that, make sure that you are registering yourself with the SSD office. If the only accommodations I can and will give for that kind of stuff is through the SSD office. Don't tell me your disability. Don't tell me your situation, because that would violate your own privacy. Right? That's why you can go to the SSD office and discuss it with them. They are bound by the privacy statements and other things. CAPS is counseling and psychological services. If throughout the semester you have need of psychological services, that's just counseling or other services that they offer. As students, you have an unlimited number of visits that you can make with them. So make use of that if you're stressed, if you're super stressed out, you need a plan to deal with that stress. CAPS is the place to go. Again, grading is outlined here. This skills survey is worth 2% of your grade, so make sure that you're doing it. It's just completion, and it is due in about 2 weeks from now. You should have gotten emails about that a couple times now. Otherwise, it's posted in Piazza. Right? It's just 3 short surveys. It should only take you about an hour to do them all if you do them all at once. Right? Attendance policy, again, because of COVID, I'm not requiring any attendance. All lectures are live streamed and available immediately afterwards. All labs and hacks have a Zoom session that you can join online asynchronously if you want. And there is also a 100% online section with about 50 people in it. If you feel more comfortable joining that section, speak to your advisor or just enroll or whatever. Right? Again, if you are not fully vaccinated, you are required to have a mask. If you are fully vaccinated, we still strongly recommend that you wear a mask given the limited social distancing available here at the university, especially in your labs. Right? If you feel ill or have been exposed to COVID or are otherwise sick, do not come. Right? Don't spread it around intentionally. Instead, just watch the live stream. Right? You'll be fine. Right? Once you've been cleared, then please, yes, come back. Right? The full expectations and consequences are outlined at UNL's policy, the Student Code of Conduct, with respect to COVID-19, and our COVID-19 website, covid19.unl.edu, and the face covering policy is there. Okay. Readings, labs, hacks, project, exams. Any questions on those so far? There is a 15th week policy passed by the student ASUN, whereby I have to provide in notice that there will be something due during dead week. That's the 15th week, the last week of class. And your project and I think a reading or a lab are due during that week. So this serves as notice. It's a standard scale. A's, A pluses, and minuses are given at this university, and so that does come into account. and they do factor fractions into your overall GPA, so it is important. There's a grading policy, late work policy, no late work is accepted. If it doesn't work in the web grader, it doesn't work. So make sure that it works in the web grader, because if we try to grade it, it doesn't work because it doesn't compile. It seg faults out, it dies for whatever reason. It takes more than 5 minutes to run, which nothing in this class should take more than 5 minutes to run. Then we're moving on, right? Integrity, the best ways of getting help. Let's see, the Learning Assistant Program. This course is supported by the CSE LAP, the Learning Assistant Program. You feel free to talk to a learning assistant. If you don't feel free coming and talking to me at all about something, they're there to help. They are basically people who have gone through this course. They are sophomores and juniors, so they are near peers to you. They know what it's like to be a student. They know what it's like to go through a year of COVID. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to start talking to an LA during office hours or on Piazza. Make sure that you're attending lectures. Make sure that you're watching those lecture videos, the required readings, labs, hack sessions, et cetera, et cetera. Right? Those are the places to get help. With our final 20 minutes or so here, let's go ahead and get started, unless there are questions. Yeah, go ahead.
How much time do we get to complete our project? Is it a week or
Well, you start out on Thursday. Well, it depends on what it is. If you're talking about the hacks,
no, the project.
oh, well, you have 15 weeks to do that.
No, I'm just like asking like, is there a certain time like we start in that time and we finish in that, like a week or a
I mean, everything's posted on Canvas right now. The actual end of the semester project, when you do have the last hack, that's designed to get you started on the project, and then you'll have maybe like a week or something to do that project. If you wait that long, you can always work ahead, right? But otherwise, a week would be my answer. All right, so there's nothing to install. We are using an IDE, an integrated development environment called CS50. It's supported by Harvard. It's actually an Amazon Web Service, Cloud9 or whatever, but it's free to us because 2 years ago I asked them, is it okay to use this for our class? And they said, yeah, sure, whatever. And so we've been using it ever since. It is free to you. All you need is a GitHub account. So these are all in the instructions for Lab 1 and Hack 1. But go to GitHub. Let me reset this. Right? Go to GitHub, sign up. You can sign up with a student account and then get a bunch of freebies if you want. I think you actually have to like fax in your NUID to prove that you are in fact a current student. So may or may not be worth it to you. But otherwise, you can sign up for an account for free. Once you've signed up for an account for free, you can go to ide.cs50.io and, okay, usually there's a login tab or a login button here, but otherwise, you just click it. It all works 100% in the browser. I don't think it matters which browser. I'm using Firefox here though. And you've got an complete development environment. Over here, you have a bunch of, you have your file directory structure. You can create new files. You can create new folders, whatever you want to do over here. This is your editor over here. And so that's where you can start typing once you've opened a file. And then down here is your actual command line. This is where you can start typing commands to execute in your environment. For example, ls lists all of the files, and you can see that over here, archive and main over here. CD stands for change directory. And again, don't take notes if you want, but you'll be doing this again in practice in Lab 1 and Hack 1. CD means that you can change a directory. I want to go into the main. And you'll see here now that I've changed into the main directory. ls, there's no files in it, just as you'd expect up here. I can create a file by going New File. And I'll go ahead and create my first Hello World program. I'll call it hello.c. Right? If I come down here and type ls again, now I can see that file right there. I can actually click it and open it if you want to, or I can just double click it over here, and it'll open it up in the editor, and I can start typing my heart's way, right? To all my heart's content. That's not real code, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let me go ahead and increase the size here. All right, I'm going to show you very, very quickly our first C program here. Include stdio.h and include, stdlib.h. What do you think that is? It's kind of like English, right? Include stdlib. Std, what do you think that's short for? Not the other thing, but standard, right? Standard lib. Lib stands for library, standard library. stdio, standard input-output library. Those are going to bring in a bunch of functionality in the language that I can use without having to reinvent the wheel. Imagine if you had to write your own code to print stuff to the screen or to read stuff from the keyboard. You'd be back in the 1960s or something like that doing that kind of work, right? That system level work. Don't worry about this. Int main, int argc, char, argv. Magic, magic, magic. But I do want you to focus on that word there, main. What do you think main stands for? Not a library anymore. This is actual code. The main function, that's where everything gets kicked off, right? Code has to start somewhere. Code executes. Execute this line, then that line, that line, then that line. It's sequential. You start at the top and it executes down to the bottom, left to right, just like we read, right? Code is written like this because English is written like this, top to bottom, left to right. But it has to have a starting point, and the starting point in most programming languages is the main function or the main method, right? In this case, it's a function. All I'm going to do is print something. Print F. The F stands for formatted. Don't worry about that yet. Hello world. Right. Hello world is the quintessential first program on any programming language. You pick up a new programming language, or you want to pick up a new programming language, the first thing you do is a hello world program. Why? Because it shows you how to set up the basic syntax, it shows you how to compile, and it shows you how to run the program. If you can get it to say hello world, then you know that everything is working behind the scenes, right? And then I'll return 0. Don't worry about that just yet, right? So we've got code here, but that's code that we understand as humans. That's not code that a dumb computer understands over in Amazon Web Services servers, wherever the hell they are, halfway across the world, right? What we need to do is we need to get this into a form that a dumb computer understands. So I'm going to compile it. GCC stands for GNU's compiler. Yes, there are little stupid jokes like that all over the place in tech stuff. Don't worry about it. It's GNU's C compiler for us, right? GCC and hello.c. When I give that command and it runs, no news is good news. It didn't say, oh, great, I compiled it, you're good to go, right? Computers, or in general, Unix systems, will only tell you when something bad happens. If something good happens, it'll just stay silent, right? Like it did here. But you'll see over here what was created. This file called a.out. That's a piece of code that can actually run on this computer. I wonder what's in it. Let's go ahead and double click on it. Is that meant for human consumption? Nope. That's just a bunch of binary, right? So I'm going to close out of that. We can't edit. I mean, you can edit it if you want and then start corrupting the file, but it won't run after that. So let me go ahead and run it. /a.out is how we run this. And I got it to print hello world. I didn't get it to print nicely though, right? You see that this main here, this prompt, this is what's called a prompt. It's on the same line as my hello world here. I'm going to go ahead and come back up here and edit the file, change it. Right? /n is a special character that says go to the next line. So it says print hello, exclamation point, and then go down to the next line, and then end. Right? Let me run it again. Same result. Wait, I changed it, didn't I? And I saved it. Right? Because if you don't save it, by the way, it's a little red X up here, and then it auto saves, I guess. Right? I didn't recompile it, right? I didn't change this a.out file over here. So let's go ahead and recompile it. You'll note here that I didn't retype everything, right? Again, we're programmers, we're lazy. Don't retype stuff. Hit up, and it goes to all the previous commands that you've ever had. Until you find the one that you want, hit enter. Now, running this again, and again, I could have just gone up, up. Now it'll go to the next line. Right? So this is the process that you're going to follow for the rest of the semester. You edit your source files. You compile, you run, and you check to see if it works. If not, you go back. You edit, compile, run, and see if it works. Edit, compile, run, edit, compile, run. Right? Questions so far on this? No? Because when we come back on Wednesday, after having gone through Lab 1 and this process, we'll start getting into what the hell does the rest of this stuff mean, right? For example, I'll want to put in some authorship here. Oops. There we go. I wrote this. Yay, me. Right. That's a comment, right? So author, yeah, I'll be more formal about it. Me. There we go. And what else should I put in there, maybe? A date? Good. If you're in an English class, what do? What are the 4 things you put up at the top of your 5-paragraph essay? Name, date, maybe the class, maybe the purpose, whatever. Whatever else you might find helpful, put that in your header. This is called a header, just like it's called a header in your English class, right? So date, what is today? 08/23. There we go. Always write your dates like that. You can always tell a computer scientist if they do their dates correctly. Year, month, day. It's lexicographic order. Europeans do it wrong. Americans do it wronger. Computer scientists do it correct. All right? Correctly. We don't have good grammar though. Right? All right. So, any questions before we leave? Anything about the course before we leave? Otherwise, we'll continue on Wednesday. Let me double check online here. It looks like we need a code for our class. For Zybooks, you should just be able to go to your reading and enter your access code. Right? So folks that have already started their reading, that's what you did, right? You clicked on reading 1, you put in your access code, and you started. Yes? Okay, I'm getting head nods here, so that's what you do. All right, I will see you on Wednesday.